God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with her light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
My name is Stan Zier, and today, United States veterans will be speaking out about their sacrifices to keep America free. This will be the first in a series of programs bringing veterans onto college campuses around the nation, educating our youth about the sacrifices they made that secured the freedoms we all enjoy today. While we may never be able to repay the debt we owe to our military, we must ensure they did not serve in vain. That is why we, the people, the recipients of their valor, are duty-bound to consecrate their lives with our eternal pledge to protect the Constitution of the United States of America, whose stance against tyranny defines America's just purpose and noble cause. Only then can we continue to enjoy their hard-won freedoms and our guaranteed freedoms.
We're very excited to have this program here on campus today. Towards the end of last summer, David Brodsky and Stanley Zier got in touch with me and through our club's advisor and presented their campaign to stop the hate to us. We immediately jumped on board because we could see that their approach was the right one for many reasons. Our party has been branded. We've been branded as racist, white supremacists, and Nazis. Meanwhile, our President Donald Trump, who takes the blunt of the slander and insults, has made it clear that wiping out anti-Semitism is a priority for him and for our country. It is long past time that we act to repudiate the absurd lies that our party is one of racists and anti-Semites. We must rebrand ourselves as the only truly inclusive constitutional party in America. It is only by doing this that we can be sure to re-elect President Trump next year. And what better way to repudiate this slander than to follow the president's lead in combating the rise of anti-Semitism? That is why we are all here today. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all here. Enjoy the program.
Fighting side by side with their American military brothers and sisters, 500,000 Jewish soldiers helped to fend off the advancement of fascism through Europe in World War II and were responsible for the liberating of Korea and China from acts of genocide. Rather than feeling grateful to America and our allies and recognize the contributions made by Jewish American soldiers for their sacrifices and often their lives in liberating them all and securing the freedoms of many of those countries that they enjoy today. Shamefully, the majority of these nations, and even more among our own ranks, now deliberately choose to ally themselves with terrorist regimes that spew anti-Jewish hatred and vow to wipe Jews off the face of the earth. In stark contrast, and a show of unity and respect to my Jewish brothers in arms, I proudly display the Never Again Is Now badge of resistance. This badge embodies our code of honor and proclaims that to the world, that hatred of our Jewish brothers and sisters will not be tolerated. Some statistics. In World War II alone, there were 18 Jewish generals, 6 Jewish major generals, 12 Jewish brigadier generals, 3 American Jewish soldiers, Ben Solomon, Isidore Jackman, and Raymond Sussman, were awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. 11,000 Jewish soldiers gave their lives liberating Europe from Nazi imperialism. Jewish soldiers suffered over 38,000 casualties. 50,000 Distinguished Service Awards for outstanding bravery include 14,500 Purple Hearts, 13,000 Air Medals, 4,600 Bronze Stars. These are just the numbers from World War II, when Jews constitute approximately 1% of the American population. Going back to the founding of our republic, Chaim Solomon, who was Jewish, was the primary financier of the American Revolution and a member of the Sons of Liberty. Twice he was arrested by the British, narrowly escaping being hanged. How can anti-Semitism exist in America when these brave and honorable souls fought to establish and defend our Constitution throughout the history of our republic? As President Trump has said, quote, "The scourge of anti-Semitism cannot be ignored, cannot be tolerated," end quote. The President has declared war on anti-Semitism and senseless hatred. I hope you will stand with me in support of our President in this battle. I'm the Director of Small Group Activities with the Valor Clinic Foundation, and we care for all veterans who have honorably served their country, regardless of race, creed, or religious persuasion. We offer free War to Peace transition to all veterans. Valor's motto is, "Hand up on the home front." We work to ensure that no veteran ever goes homeless again, and after giving everything for the love of this country. As a draftee veteran of the Vietnam War, I served during a time in American history when, as Colin Powell stated in his book, My American Journey, the United States Army was a true melting pot. I served with the comrades in arms of all ethnicities and religions, Jewish, Christian, agnostic, and all others, black, white, Hispanic, bore the hardships side by side. John Rowan, National President of the Vietnam Veterans of America, VVA, said, "If there are any VVA members who harbor any of these bigoted ideologies, they are encouraged to turn in their membership cards. We did not don the uniform and serve our country to enable the acceptance of intolerance. The ancestors of my own family left Europe after being persecuted and jailed for failure to participate in communion with the Anglican Church of England. I'm proud to be part of this event because it gives veterans a chance to speak out about the sacrifices that they made to keep America free and to support President Trump's initiative to keep free speech alive on America's campuses. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bill Marsh, and I was with the 1st Air Cav in Vietnam. I served from 68, 69, and 70. I got hit in 68. I went back to the front lines. And for 3 years, I was doing a lot of stuff. People don't know what really went on over there. When we came back, we were considered baby killers, which is not true. When we over here, when we recruit people, we get drafted at a certain age. And we have a choice what church want to go in and whatever. Over there, they didn't have no choice. Okay, I'm for the little kids over there, but the way they got drafted was unconstitutional. Viet Cong in the North Vietnam would go in the hutches, the homes of people over there at night. And there'd be baby's on, mommy's on, papa's on. And they'd be 12 years old, 14, 10, 9, and they would throw a gun in their hands. And they would tell them, "You're coming with us. We're recruiting you." And the kids would say, I'd say, "Where's my mom and dad?" And they turn around and shoot me right in front of them. And they would say, "No, you come with us now. We're your mother and father. You're joining our crew." And that's how they recruited over there. And so we weren't just fighting men. We were fighting Chinese, Americans, and kids. Now, I talked to a lot of people. Like, I say to them, if a little kid was aiming a rifle at you, would you just stand there and shoot? They say, no, you're going to fire back. That's your freedom. And that's a lot these guys went over there faced. I lost a couple of guys over there. But my first kill over there made me sick. Because we had to identify him. It was a 16-year-old girl. And it was just like my sister, or brother, or nieces, you know. And that's what we went through over there for 3 years. They were sneaky, and you wouldn't know them, they were coming at you. But they're little kids to bomb our convoys, or shoot at us and all. And we had to defend ourselves. So when we came back to the States, you know, I was kicked out of my own church. I was degraded. The minister would say, "We have a baby killer amongst us." And at the door when I left the church, I says, "How could you say that? You don't know what we went through over there." I said, "Thank God I'm alive yet." And that's about all I can tell you right now, is that we should respect all the veterans. I don't care what color they are, or Jewish, Christian, we all serve one thing, to serve the country and the Constitution of the United States. And I would do it again if I had to. Thank you for...
This is a poem. It's called Star of Gold. Some of you may have heard of it. I picked it up at the Veterans Administration. It's called Star of Gold. It seems strange that there are those who do not know it was God who chose you mothers who wear this golden pin, that it wasn't merely a social win. They do not know its golden star shows you lost a son in war, and that your mission is to try to help his buddies who did not die. A mother's courage, a mother's love, faith in your country and God above. All these things are simply told by your emblem, a star of gold. Shine brightly, little star of gold, till all the world has been told what you mean, what you are, a sun replaced by a golden star.
Thank you very much.
Of course, when the Vietnam War was going on, it was all over the TV. I was a 17-year-old high school dropout, and I was watching the TV, and all you hear was the Marines this, Marines that, and I said to myself, I want to join the Marines. I joined the Marines June of '66. I was 17 years old. My parents signed, no problem. When I turned 18 in September, I was already in Camp Pendleton doing war school training because I was a grunt. We had to walk everywhere. Then I found myself on the other side of the television. I was in the war, and they sent 1,500 of us on a ship. We left San Diego in about the end of November. We got to Vietnam right after Christmas. We spent 2 Christmases, one in the International Dateline Zone and then another one when we got to Vietnam. Spent 13 months over there with 3rd Marine Division. Just a grunt at the DMZ. We didn't have an easy time because we had a whole battalion of Marines guarding one bridge because Con Thien was the borderline, and that's where the B-52s used to drop all their bombs. Every time they dropped their bombs, our bunkers would shake or whatever, but I can go on and on and on. But one thing about war, every soldier has a different story. And mine was my real quick, my fire team leader who broke me into the bush. We went out to reinforce the convoy. We marched like 5 miles, full battle gear, everything. We get to where the convoy got ambushed. As we going along, as we getting there, the fire gets louder and louder and louder. Now here it is, 100-degree weather. We were sweating. We were told, pull it to the side, catch our breath before we started to move out. I turned to my fire team leader. I says, you got any salt tablets? Because I ran out. He said, no, I have a package of salt. I said, I'll take it. Opened the package of salt, took it in my mouth. It rejuvenated me. We were told to do a skirmish line, go over a ridge. There was a gook on the top. My fire team leader was the first one killed. And we were taught, as soon as somebody shoots at you or whatever, hit the ground, don't move. That's exactly what I did. If I'd have moved an inch, I wouldn't be here today. Because I felt the bullets go over my head and the wind. I got like a sixth sense toward the mountain where he was shooting. I emptied 40 rounds. After that, we were told to fall back, but we don't leave our dead behind. So I called out for 3 other comrades of mine, Marines. We brought them back. There was a skirmish line of Marines. They told them where to leave them and back. Moral is, it took me 40 years to remember this kid's name. I couldn't remember his name. My first name is George. His name was George Naylor. He was a year older than me. He was from Tennessee. I thank Rosemary Brown because they helped me find him. And when they told me who it was, my knees buckled. To this day, they told me where he is at the war. I haven't gone to the war. I wanted to go to the war with my son, my only son, but unfortunately, 3 years ago, he had a motorcycle accident, passed away. So, and that's the only where I bought my house that I wanted to live for him. But unfortunately, I got to keep going because that's what we were taught. It's good to mourn your dead, but we were there and we couldn't have time to mourn our dead. We just had to keep going and try to survive from day to day. But in the brief statement, these are all the conflicts from 1776 that the Marines were in to Desert Storm. There's the Vietnam, Korea, etc. But it was a gift to me, and I'm proud to be a Marine. And I thank you.
I was a professor, an adjunct professor of corporate finance and economics, and one of the things I made sure to tell my students, and I proved it in every single case, is that America is the greatest country that has ever existed throughout the corridors of history. And as one who has studied politics, geopolitics, traveled around the world in many regards, a teacher, an adjunct professor of corporate finance and economics, worked on Wall Street, now at Fox, and doing a whole host of other things. America is the greatest country that has ever existed throughout the corridors of our history. But but what I don't think we understand is that America is the greatest country that has ever existed because it's founded upon the greatest political document that was ever written, the U.S. Constitution. From the Declaration of Independence flows the Constitution. And it was the Constitution that gave birth to a nation. America did not make the Constitution. From the U.S. Constitution flowed America. I was telling my children this morning, before our founding fathers wrote the Constitution, there was no example they could fall back on. We were a world of tyrants, a world of monarchs, a world of communism. And just by the grace of God, the superintending providence of God, who would lead them to create the greatest political document ever written. And America is founded upon that document. America does not exist apart from the U.S. Constitution. So if you have people going in, rewriting and making it up as they go, you're essentially undoing America. There is nothing inherently amazing about any of us as a nation outside of the U.S. Constitution. It is the Constitution that separates us from every single tyrannical government that has ever existed on this planet. I hope we understand that. And I take it personal when I hear our leaders coming to the mic and saying, this isn't America. This isn't who we are. They're redefining when you hear them say that. But all of a sudden, what has been common knowledge to so many of us for years is now considered immoral. It's a redefining. If you want to undo a nation, if you want to undo America specifically, create a society where you can just make it up as you go. Now, all of a sudden, kneeling during the national anthem is a virtue. It's a righteous thing. Standing on our flag, burning our flag, it's a righteous endeavor. It's a good thing, right? Protecting our borders is evil, but standing on the flag is good, right? That's the culture in which we now find ourselves in and trying to raise up the next generation. You know, America is very personal to me. Like I said, I can't listen to our national anthem and not cry. I love it, thinking about it, getting teary-eyed, but I love it because it means so much. I remember when I was in the military and getting ready to graduate from boot camp, and the thought hit me right before graduation day, you can be sent to war. I know, I should have had that epiphany before I signed up, but better late than never. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, you're just getting into this thing because you need money for college. You're not really trying to go fight somebody's war, lose a limb, God forbid, die. And I thought to myself, well, would you go? And I said, yes, I would. But it started me on the quest of if I could potentially go and lay my life down, I need to understand. I am the kind of person who need to understand what it is I could be potentially laying my life down. And do I agree? Because growing up in the Black community, you know, it's not the best rhetoric that you hear about America. And I'm thinking to myself, but I could go somewhere, potentially put my life on the line, come back not whole in some fashion, broken in some fashion. And we see how our nation treat our veterans. We were talking a few minutes ago. What was the term you gave me?
Indifference to medicine.
Yes, an indifference towards our veterans. Just a huge indifference. It's just, I mean, like, there, you know, it's one thing to be actively neglected, but, you know, just to be like, whatever. I mean, such disrespect. Right? At least if you're intentionally putting some thought into dismissing me, I know that I must be on your mind because you're intentionally trying to dismiss me. But if it's just like, whatever. I mean, just such a disdain. And then we had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez say just a couple of days ago, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, referencing the veteran, the VA hospital. 22 veterans commit suicide every day. But hey, it ain't broke. Don't worry about it. It's just a gimmick. Redefining our values right in front of us, of what's precious. All these songs that you just sung, all the ceremony, the pop, the circumstance, all of that, it just becomes void when there's indifference. But, you know, talking about America is like somebody talking about one of my children. It's very personal to me. It's very personal. And it needs to get personal to us. There was a time right before President Trump took office where I would hear people try to say something nice about America, and then they'd be like, oh, well, but I know. No, stop with the nice part. We don't need to apologize. There are things we've done. And there are things we've done. There are things we need to take. We need to acknowledge. We know the history of this country has not always been kind to people who look like me. And yet, I look at my country and I see she has done so much to move forward and to compensate and to recognize and to have repentance over her sins. And we're moving forward as a nation, right? But it is. I end with it is profitable for some to keep stirring the pot. Is profitable. It was extremely profitable when I started reading about different slaves' accounts and recognizing that not all overseers were white. They had black overseers too. They were called drivers. And their job was the same as the white overseer, and that was to keep black folks in line. Don't you step outside of this line. Don't you think for yourself. And that is what we have in this culture. And as a black person, a part of the black community, a lot of the destabilizing strategies that has upended a whole community is now spilling out into the larger community. And it is promising the same devastating effects. What we've seen in the black community, it is devastating our broader American community. And I'm so very grateful for opportunities like this to be able to come share about the importance of our Constitution, to come and remember the 1%ers of us who stand guard while the rest of you sleep at night. I'm so grateful that we have an opportunity to come and stand and to give our appreciation and to say thank you and to remember those who didn't make it back. And to continue to push forward for the next generation our culture, our American culture. Amen? Amen. Thank you, guys.
So the question is, why is America so beautiful?
Because of our veterans.
Because it attracts people like David Silverman, who had the courage to stand up to those oppressors, whose ignorance and hatred would deny the Jewish people their right to exist. I'd like to introduce David Brodsky, who will deliver a few remarks about this true hero of all freedom-loving people.
I just want to ask Mr. Silverman if you could just please stand so people know who you are and where you are. Mr. Silverman was born in Latvia. He's from a town called Prēļi, which is one of the oldest towns in Latvia. Had a sizable Jewish community before the war. And when Mr. Silverman was a child, his parents managed to get him out before they escaped, before the Nazis came in. When he returned to Prēļi, there were almost no Jews left. And it was really at that point when he recognized what that was about and where that was coming from, that he started his life's mission. And since then, he's been an untiring fighter on behalf of his fellow Jews and against tyranny and oppression in general. Just as an example, and this is an insane story, in 1971, he was one of the organizers of a sit-in hunger strike in the Kremlin. People don't do that. People don't walk into the Kremlin, sit down and demand things and walk out alive. He walked out all the way to Israel and opened the door for the other Jews to get out of the Soviet Union, including, by the way, people like my parents, who came to this country in the 70s thanks to the actions of Mr. Silverman. But he didn't stop there. In Israel, he took a job working in the shipyards, putting his education to good use. From Israel, he was sent by the Jewish Agency to sell Israel bonds in America to support the State of Israel. But in 1973, when the war broke out, he rushed right back to serve in the reserves. Now, 4 years after that, he moved to New York, where he still lives, and he actually was working for the city of New York as an engineer. Now, this is obviously a very abbreviated biography, and we'll get to that longer one, I promise you. But my contact with Mr. Silberman started over a book that he wrote, a book called And You Saw It. It's a collection of accounts of Holocaust survivors, mostly from his native Latvia, and it's been my privilege to work on the translation of that book into English. All of these years, he's been collecting these stories that nobody else has, that nobody else knows. And he's been publishing them, and he's been telling the story of all of us, of all of these survivors. And they're not all horror stories. Some of them are actually very sweet. Some of them are very amusing. He gives a 3D, fully dimensional picture. But he's telling stories that a lot of people would prefer weren't told. And it was as a result of his work that the Latvian government actually acknowledged the collaboration of many of their people with the Nazis during the Holocaust. Not only did they acknowledge it, they built a museum to a man named Janis Lipke, who was essentially rediscovered by Mr. Silberman. And Janis Lipke saved dozens of Jews. He was a dock worker. He wasn't anybody. He wasn't a rich man. He wasn't, a powerful man. He saved over 50 Jews, risking his own life. We wouldn't know about that if not for Mr. Silberman. He changed Latvia into the country with the least incidence of anti-Semitism in Europe. We're talking about Eastern Europe here. This is a serious, serious change. So I think, we've heard from heroes, we've talked about heroes today, and I think that it's time that we recognize a different type of hero, another hero, but also a true hero. And in the spirit of the hour, I would ask that we give a round of applause in gratitude to this lion from Latvia for all that he's done.